going on, everybody? Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Sorry for the slight delay, but we are here and ready to rock and roll. Thanks to everybody for waiting in the live chat. And unfortunately, for a fourth straight week, it is not a Victory Monday. It is a disappointed Monday here on Bears Now. But we'll try to power through it as we always do. Used to these losses, unfortunately. We've been here before. We'll be here again. So shout out your city. Let us know where you guys are tuning in from. We'll get some shout outs. And big round of applause to OG producer Jack Lotteray, back on Bears Now. Cullen's on PTO. So Jack back on the ones and twos. Get the Jacks going in the chat. Let's go.
I was going to say, is it time to start the Thanks Flus campaign?
The Thanks Flus campaign? I don't have anything to thank him for. So
well, but we didn't have anything to thank Nagy for
Well,
either.
looking back on it, maybe we should have. He made the playoffs twice. Jack was here when Matt Nagy was fired, and we're both still here when it looks like Matt Eberflus will get fired in the near future.
We will be here. We will be here longer than Matt Eberflus's tenure as the Bears head coach.
That is just a fact. It's not a fun fact, but it is a fact. We got Richie in El Paso, Bruce in Gainesville, Kevin in Rockford, Illinois, Todd in Dayton, Ohio, David in Chicago, Wasim in Irvine, California. Xavier Soup says, fire Cullen. He's lost 4 straight. We need a change. We got Ben in Springfield, John in Moscow, Jacob in Ottawa. We got Umar in Glendale Heights, Derek in Chicago, Eber F.U.ville from La Cura. Salt Lake City, Utah from Snack. We got Marcelo in Franklin Grove. Mond in Atlanta. Fire that bum from Jose. Yeah, he's if you're on that train, you guys know what to do. Get it trending. The Fire Flus campaign. Get after it. It's what America wants. It's what America needs. America needs a lot. This is something that's in that list. Something we can all agree upon. Josh saying fire Flus. Stevo says fire them all. Bruce says fire that loser. Wasim, Maxwell, DC Viper, Joseph, Prometheus saying the Flus effect. Trooper says fire Flus. He's awful. Please fire him. David, stop overreacting about Poles. I'm not overreacting. I'm just asking you guys questions. We'll get to Ryan Poles in a little bit. But, it's, I think everything should be fair game at this point. So, Bears fans act like children. You explain that further, Peter. What do you think the Bears' record should be right now? Do you think the Bears should have won yesterday? Because they outplayed the Packers in pretty much every facet of the game except for, I guess, special teams because they couldn't block properly there. I don't know, man. I don't think Bears fans are overreacting here. We'll sneak in a quick super chat, and then we'll talk about our sponsors. We got Josh. We'll get to him here in just a moment. Someone says I should be the head coach after yesterday's game. I will say this, Reed. From X's and O's, game planning, all that stuff, I would not be better. I truly do believe, and maybe I'm just psychotic, I think in terms of just, knowing when to take timeouts, challenge plays, and, just deciding when to go for it, when not to, I actually think I would make better decisions.
You would be a great CEO head coach.
I think on game days I could manage that at least better than Matt Eberflus. Now, that's not saying much because he's one of the worst game managers I've ever witnessed. But, yeah. Josh says, when's the last time we didn't fire a coach? What do you mean? They fired a coach last week, Shane Waldron. They've never fired a head coach midseason. So, I'm not really sure what you mean by that question. Chris Ayers says, Eber Deuce. Yeah, it's ugly, man. It's bad, man. It is bad. All right, something that's not bad, something that's awesome, that's fun, that's easy, that is a way for you to get in on the fun with all this football action and make some money is Prize Picks. Daily fantasy made easy, available in more than 30 states, and 10 million users and counting are playing Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app in North America, where you can turn $10 into $1,000, which is few. with as few as 4 correct picks on a single entry. Pick more, pick less. They offer stat projections, and as long as your lineup consists of 2 players on 2 different teams, regardless of sport, it qualifies. And if you hit, you make money. And guess what? If you use the code CLNS at prizepicks.com/CLNS, you get a $50 bonus when you play initially for just $5. Awesome deal. Also, speaking of money, if you want to save some money, cut back on some of the subscriptions you signed up for and just overall spending, Rocket Money is going to help you do that, a personal finance app that can help you find and cancel any subscriptions you no longer want, monitor your overall spending, help you set budgets, and in some cases, even lower some of your bills by up to 20%. The way you do that is you can just send Rocket Money a picture of your bill, and they will see what options are out there for you. They will do all the work for you in that regard and get back to you. But awesome app. My wife and I have been using it for a while now, especially since we had our son, because things are expensive and you got a budget and you got to stay on top of things. And Rocket Money helps you do all of that. And you'll be surprised at how much money you're spending per month on subscriptions, probably ones that you forgot about, believe it or not. So check it out today. Get started, and they will help you cancel any subscriptions you no longer want. Get started at rocketmoney.com/bears now. Link to both Rocket Money and Prize Picks are available in the live chat. Okay, Wasim Khan, Flus is still employed is an indictment on Poles. I think so too. And listen, we're going to do a full Ryan Poles segment. I guess the one caveat is maybe he's not allowed to fire him mid-season. They've never fired a coach. Maybe the McCaskies won't allow it, but he still brought him back last year. I got to think he would have had some say in terms of if he would have been allowed to do that. And quite frankly, listen, those caveats could be legitimate, but I'm tired of finding excuses for people in this franchise. If he wanted him gone bad enough, I think he could find a way. Laquarius, appreciate the 10. He says Browns are 2-8, and it looks more likely that they will fire Stefanski. I know he's one of your top guys, but there's been a lot of Browns fans saying he's lost the locker room. Isn't that concerning? I mean, I think sometimes that's just one of those cliches of team that's supposed to be good isn't. He's lost the locker room. I know this about Kevin Stefanski. He took a Browns team in year 1 to the playoffs and won a playoff game. He went to the playoffs a second time with Joe Flacco. I'm not saying he's a perfect coach, but he's had success with the franchise that historically is a bigger joke than the Bears. So I think that's worth noting. Maybe, he'd be lower on my list if I thought about it further, but I'd much rather have him than what you have right now. I like his offense. He gave up play calling, I think, just because they were losing games and they needed to try something new. The Deshaun Watson thing, I don't know how much sway he had in that decision to trade for him. It's just a train wreck. It derailed their whole franchise. So, I mean, is he going to be the scapegoat for that? I guess. But I've seen this guy make the playoffs twice with Baker Mayfield, who is much better now than he was at the time. And at the time, that was the best year of Baker's career that Stefanski got out of him. And Joe Flacco off the couch. I think that's much more impressive than any of the last 3 Bears coaches, 4 coaches, whatever, have done combined. Josh Baratek, like he resigned or retired, not actually fired. I'd have to go back and look, to be honest. It's been a while. It's been a while, if ever. I'd have to go back and double check that if I'm being real. Appreciate the clarification, though. Sir Cake, do you truly believe that we will fire Flus this offseason? Because I do not, sadly. I think Ryan is loyal to him, and that scares me for Caleb Williams. If after this season, assuming there's not some miraculous turnaround where they win, where they got 7 games left, they win 6 out of 7 or something like that, if Ryan Poles goes to Kevin Warren and says, hey, I want to bring Matt Eberflus back, goes to George McCaskey, says that as well, if their response isn't immediately, okay, I'm firing both of you, I don't know what to say, because they should not, or Matt Eberflus cannot return. I'm still open to Poles returning. I haven't completely turned on Poles. I still like a lot of the things he's done. I'm starting to lose faith because he has been loyal to Matt Eberflus. So if Flus is back next year, barring a miraculous turnaround in the final 7 games, and I don't mean like last year where they won 5 out of 8 but didn't really beat anyone significant other than 1 win against Detroit. I'm talking about like you win 6 out of 7 or all 7 games, then there's no scenario where he can return. Sitch Lover, Flus is just bad at his job. Poles isn't doing his job by not holding Flus accountable. There's only person of not doing their job. There's only one person guilty of not doing their job. Fire Poles. Yeah, I mean, look, if this ends with Poles getting fired, I wouldn't argue with it. I think he has some good traits to him. I think he's brought in some good players, but I think some of these guys he's brought in that we've liked also kind of haven't taken the next big step. Like Tyreek Stevenson hasn't taken a step forward this year. He's still a starting level player, but he's not a high end player in year two. Darnell Wright, good right tackle. He's not exactly on the trajectory we were hoping in terms of maybe this guy's a future All Pro. So I don't know. Maybe is that coaching? Are they not developing good enough? That could be part of it. But yeah, I think Poles coming into this year, I felt really good about him. Now I've got more of a mixed bag. I think that's fair to say. Should Ryan Poles be on the hot seat? Yes or no? It's the live poll question in the chat as well. 78% yes. That's kind of crazy. That's a high number. 78% yes. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Burke says yes. Peyton does as well. So does Wasim. Imagine if Poles bringing back Flus. What if he gets sunk with the Matt Eberflus ship? Like, I would not be able to sleep at night if I was Ryan Poles if my loyalty to him got me fired. Like, you went down with Matt Eberflus. I mean, I don't know if it gets much worse than that. I don't know if it gets much worse than that. Blake says yes. Umar says no. Tim says yes. Not yet from gaming. He should be fired from Edward. Yeah, it's trending in a not great direction for him. I think that's fair to say. Adam Downing, only watching YouTube highlights until Flus is out. Like highlights of like Caleb Williams or just like my show? What do you mean by that? But I think you mean like you're not going to actually watch the games. You're just going to watch like the highlights after just to get the cliff notes of what happened. I got you. Tony, did Green Bay blitz much yesterday? I didn't notice much blitzing, and our O-line handled that well. Well, on that last completion to Keenan Allen for a 12-yard out, they brought 7, and Caleb recognized it pre-snap. He communicated and set a 7-man protection, which is excellent on his part, and got the ball out quick before he took a hit. So, I thought that 3-play sequence he had to get 16 yards on 3rd and 19, convert the 4th and 3 on a beautiful back shoulder throw, and identifying the 7-man blitz to get them into field goal range. I thought that was excellent. And then his coach took the ball away from him in that spot and didn't see if he could get him closer for a shorter field goal attempt, which clearly it's been well documented. It's extremely frustrating. Kevin, too evil to hope. Eberflus would coach better if they extended him. I mean, A, if that's true, that's silly. And B, even if that's true, I still wouldn't do it. Like, he's done nothing to earn an extension. The Sky Warrior 2, I speak for my uncle Devin, who subs to your channel. I was a big Justin Fields fan, and I truly wish this team would do better for Devin. Okay. What does your uncle Devin have to do with you being a Justin Fields fan? Are you just getting a couple comments in there? I got you. All right. DC Viper. Have to show Caleb some love. Dude did everything to win that game in the 4th, but Flus screwed him again. It's happened twice now. Happened in Washington. Happened in against Green Bay yesterday. And, you could debate which one hurts more. I think the Hail Mary individual play is clearly worse. But the one yesterday against the opponent they played, that one, that cuts deep. That cuts really, really deep. Jacob, crazy how Caleb talking about Riley's advice, not Flus's. Listen, I mean, I don't think he was jabbing Flus, but they were just asking him, hey, how do we have to, how do you move forward? And he said, yeah, you just got to keep going. Lincoln called me this week, gave me that advice. He told a story about how when he was a freshman and not starting and frustrated, Lincoln just sat him down and said, hey, man, just keep going, keep grinding. And I think it's a good message like, hey, you gotta just get to the next practice, the next game, and move forward. So that's all he can do. Like, he can't control who the coach is. He can't control this and that. But, yeah. Jack is asking if Cliff Kingsbury is the next head coach. I'm worried Cliff is cliffing again. The last couple games, that offense hasn't looked great, so I don't know. Justin says, will Cunningham be our next GM? I've had that thought, like, would they fire Ryan Poles and promote Cunningham? I don't think they would do that. And quite frankly, I'm not sure he would take the job under those circumstances. They're literally best friends, so I don't think that would happen. But my gut tells me Poles will be back no matter what. But if he continues to stand by Matt Eberflus, it's hard to defend that at this point. Eduardo, I actually convinced myself yesterday we were going to win at the 30-second mark. That's kind of when I convinced myself they were going to lose because they decided to run the clock out. Unbelievable. I thought when Caleb hit that out to Keenan and the Packers took a timeout, I was like, okay, they're going to win because surely they're going to try and get closer, right? No. One handoff for 2 yards, let 32 seconds run down, take a timeout, and then have a 46-yard field goal blocked. Yeah. So stupid. John T., completely disagree, Harrison. You're at the 46. Everyone on earth knows you're running. More likely to lose 2 yards than gain 6 with our interior. Not Flus's fault. Pryor got bull rushed to Mars. I agree it's not his fault that Pryor got bull rushed. Where I disagree is not everyone on earth knows you're running or should think you're running. I think you can throw a pass there. Why can't you throw a pass? You could throw a safe pass to the sideline or a safe underneath throw, which was working most of the day. If it's not there, throw it at the guy's feet. I don't think good coaches in that league would just settle for a 46-yarder. And I'm comfortable running it again, too, because even if you lose 2 yards, like 46 versus 48, it's not like you're going to lose 10 on a handoff. So you either run it again. I would have liked to throw it at least once. I thought Caleb earned the opportunity to throw the football again, what he had done the 3 plays prior. So I got to disagree. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, obviously, but be aggressive. Go take the game. Make it easier on your kicker. Your kicker is 71 of 71 as the Bears kicker inside of 40 yards. Why not try and get 7 more yards to get in that range where he's literally never missed? From 45 plus, where he kicked from 46, he's 32 of 42. It's good, 76%. It's not a gimme. It's not a gimme. If you love the Bears, hit that like button. Boz says you can run click stance there all day long. You do a lot of things. You can run a screen. Those little just quick hitters to DJ on the perimeter, they were working yesterday. They were being blocked up. You could have tried one of those. And if it's clearly going to get blown up, you can just dirt it at his feet. That is a very safe play to call in that spot while still trying to get more yards. That's my point. I'm not saying you have to go YOLO aggressive, like launch toward the end zone. But I would have liked to try to get 5 to 10 more yards. That's all. That's all. What's up?
I'm just looking at the chat real quick. Eddie Jackson, I see your comment. You're going to need to change Eberflus's name from Eber F word. I'm not going to be able to put it on screen if that's the case.
Yeah, we can't flash.
We can't flash curse
words, derogatory terms.
So if you type that out again and just put Eberflus's actual name, we'll be able to put it on screen. But I won't be able to put it on screen if it's got the bad word, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't mind y'all cussing in the chat. We just can't put it on screen. So just know that. So. Okay, all right, here's what's coming up on Chicago Bears Now Live. Is Ryan Poles on the hot seat? Should he be on the hot seat? We're going to dive into that. We'll take your questions, so continue to sound off. If you have any super chats, we'll get to those. Also, we'll try to work in some hashtag Bears questions as well. And Caleb Williams is clutch. Say what you want about his rookie year, but he has shown on multiple occasions that he's got the clutch gene. We'll kind of analyze some data and some situations where he's proven that he's got that in the arsenal, which that's a very encouraging sign. My name is Harrison Graham. We got a loaded episode of Chicago Bears Now coming up right now. Coming up on Chicago Bears Now, how much blame should Ryan Poles take for the failures of this team this year? Should he be on the hot seat? We're going to analyze that coming up here on today's episode. I'm Harrison Graham. Before we dive into Ryan Poles, here are some reasons why you should subscribe to Bears Now. For one, it's free. Free and daily Bears YouTube videos. We cover the latest news, rumors, injury updates, my opinions and analysis on everything surrounding this team. Sometimes we do some deep dive analytical videos, dive into some numbers, and explore my take on those. We go live 3 times per week at least, every Monday, Thursday, and game day. If there's major breaking news, we go live in those situations as well. And we're currently at 108,611 subs. Our next milestone is 109,000. So if you haven't joined the family here on this channel, hit that subscribe button. All right, Ryan Poles. Is he under fire? Should he be under fire? Is there a scenario where he's on the hot seat? Because all the attention has been on Matt Eberflus, rightfully so, because during the season, during these games, it's easier to judge the coach for the decisions he's making, especially if you're in close games, which the Bears have certainly been in some. But is it fair to question, is it fair to dive into the topic of Ryan Poles possibly being on the hot seat? I think there's 3 reasons why you could and should have legitimate complaints about Ryan Poles. And the biggest one is this, and this goes back to last offseason. I've said it, a lot of others said it. I think most people would agree at this point. His overly loyal and just overall loyalty to Matt Eberflus, it's just too much. It's way too much. And listen, I think loyalty is the best trait you can have in a friendship, right? Like with people in your inner circle in life. I do. But this is a business, and a business that's based on winning more than anything else. Like obviously from an ownership standpoint, they just want to make money. But they know if you win, you're going to make more money because you're going to be in more primetime games. You're going to sell more jerseys. You're going to fill out your stadium more, all this stuff. So winning is all that this is about. And Matt Eberflus is a loser. I'm not saying that as like I'm calling him a name. I'm saying all he does is lose. And so Ryan Poles being this loyal to him, like it's one thing to bring Matt Eberflus back for a 3rd season. Like they won 5 out of 8, 7 out of the final 13. They could have folded after an 0-4 start last year. Like a small part of me understands why he did it, even though I was firmly against it. But it's another thing to see what's played out this year, especially since the bye week, and still stand by him amidst multiple disasters. Washington and now against Green Bay and a couple of other games, quite frankly, Colts being one of them. Patriots losing by 16 at home, just not being ready to play. That just should not have happened. And I do want to be fair. There is one potential caveat. I don't think any of us know for sure. But some believe that the McCaskey family, under no circumstances, will fire a head coach midseason. So maybe Ryan Poles has tried to fire Flus, and he's just not allowed to. Maybe he's not allowed. I still, even though it's never happened, find that a little hard to believe. Like, if he goes to Kevin Warren and then the ownership and is like, guys, this is a train wreck. He has to get out of here. We're going to ruin Caleb Williams or something like that. I would have to think they'd at least be open-minded to it, but maybe he's not. So I do want to throw that caveat out there. I will say this. Even if that's true, that does not excuse bringing him back this year. Again, I slightly understand why he did it, but I was firmly against it. And regardless of what my opinion on it is, whether he should have been back or not, Ryan Poles has to wear the results. It's not my job to make the right decision. That's Ryan Poles' job. I could have stood up here for months and said, you have to bring back Matt Eberflus. You have to bring back Matt Eberflus. It's the right decision. That doesn't mean when it plays out, it was the right decision. Now, I was on the other end. I wanted them to get rid of Matt Eberflus and explore other guys. We'll talk about one of those guys here in just a moment. But it was a bad call at the time. And it's even worse now watching him still be on the side. Like, it actually pisses me off watching him roam the sidelines. Because you know you have no chance to win big with this coach. You're just kind of wasting time with him being your head coach. So, yeah, it's possible he gets sunk with Matt Eberflus. And if he does, and if he gets fired, could you imagine trying to sleep at night knowing that you lost your job because you stayed on the Matt Eberflus ship? I mean, that is pretty hard to take if that's what ends up happening here to Ryan Poles. Because regardless of what we think of Poles at this point, I do think he is significantly better at his job than Matt Eberflus is at his job. Should Ryan Poles be on the hot seat? Pin comment on today's video. Type Y for yes and for no. If you get hit with that YouTube ad break, answer down below. All right, number 2. And it kind of ties into number 1. Not exploring Jim Harbaugh. I don't know, man. I watch the Chargers play, and I don't see a team that's crazy talented. Clearly, they have good players, and clearly Justin Herbert's special. Like, I'm not diminishing their roster, but they just let Keenan Allen and Mike Williams go. Now, clearly, both those guys are beyond their prime. We've watched Keenan here. He's been okay, but not great. But they've got holes on that roster. Like, most people viewed them as a 7-8 win team that might make the playoffs and get to 9 or 10 wins because of Harbaugh. Well, they're already at 7 wins. Like, I watched the Chargers play, and I'm like, that's the Harbaugh effect. Like, how many times have we watched the Chargers do what they did on Monday night where they're up 27-6? Cincinnati storms back, ties it at 27, and you're like, well, they're charging again. They're going to lose. Like, they lose that game 9 times out of 10 since I've been alive. Oh, not with Jim Harbaugh. They steady the ship. They find a way. They close that game out. It just makes me sick because if Jim Harbaugh was the coach of the Bears, at minimum, you're a 6-win team right now. You're probably a 7 or 8 win team. You for sure don't have the 2 colossal failures in Washington and against Green Bay. And I think it's safe to say between Indianapolis and the Patriots, you win at least one of those, if not 2. All of a sudden, you look up, you're 7-3, just like the Chargers are. And listen, you don't have to believe me. Maybe the source was wrong. We got a source here at Chat Sports in Jim Harbaugh's camp say that he was interested in the Bears job if it opened up. It did not open up. Now, maybe he takes the Chargers job still. I don't know. That's one of 2 caveats. It's very fair to question if the McCaskies and Kevin Warren would even allow the possibility of hiring Jim Harbaugh because they don't hire big alphas like that typically to be their head coach. They don't pay big money for head coaches, although that's going to have to change if they want to be a big winner moving forward. And again, maybe he takes the Chargers job anyway. But late in the regular season, when we were wondering if Flus would be back or not, we were told that Jim Harbaugh would have interest in the Bears job. And they didn't even open it up. They didn't even open it up. And then you've got this report coming out now from Jordan Schultz. Text from an NFC GM. Could it be Ryan Poles? I don't know. The amount of regret some teams have for not hiring Jim Harbaugh when they had the chance, it's very real. And when I look back at last offseason, I think the Chargers were like the only team that like seriously considered him. The Raiders chose to keep Antonio Pierce. The Bears chose to keep Matt Eberflus. It's crazy when you think about it. And look, I'll just say it. I think Harbaugh would have come here if the Bears wanted him bad enough. I do think he would have because the Bears are a more relevant franchise from a national scale standpoint than the Chargers. He's a Midwest guy. I know he's been on the West Coast before with Stanford and the 49ers and everything, but I really do believe he would have taken this job. And the Bears didn't give him that opportunity, which I think it could go down as an all-time mistake. Looking back. Hopefully it doesn't, but it feels like it very, very well could. Now, coming up next, why the Bears should have swung big on Jim Harbaugh, plus one other category that is completely fair game when it comes to criticizing Ryan Poles. But before we get there, I do want to tell you about today's sponsor. That is Prize Picks. The best daily fantasy sports app in North America is Prize Picks, where you can turn $10 into $1,000 with as few as 4 correct picks on a single entry. You just set lineups of 2 or more players as long as it's 2 players on different teams, regardless of sport. You can cross over your sports within your entry. You could have a football player, basketball player, hockey player, esports player, all in the same entry if you wanted to. You just choose more or less on the stat projections available, and if you hit, you make money. For example, here is a 2-player entry for tonight's game. I've got Nico Collins coming back for injury. I think he gives a spark to that Houston offense. CeeDee Lamb, I think he'll find the end zone. It's a night game, so the sun shouldn't be an issue over at Jerry World. That's also a Goblin pick, which is a little more bang for your buck, which I like. So 5 to win a little bit more than 15. But if you're a new customer, the deal for you is this. Sign up at prizepicks.com/CLNS, create an account, use code CLNS. That'll get you a $50 bonus when you play for just $5. So you can tail my entry right there, come up with your own $5. Doesn't matter if you win or lose. You're getting an additional $50 into your account. Take advantage of this Prize Picks deal today. Link is in the comments and in the description right now. The question I had then is the same I had now. What was the risk? Like if you were scared that you couldn't get Jim Harbaugh, like that he would go somewhere else or go back to Michigan or whatever the case may be, what did the Bears have to lose? Matt Eberflus? That's not something to lose. That's something to gain. Maybe they didn't feel it at the time, but reasonable people did, and definitely seeing how it's played out this year. Like, at worst, that's like well, it sucks we didn't get the guy we wanted, and Flus finished kind of strong, but let's be honest, he's not going to win big, so just go get another coach. I mean, you had that other report from Albert Breer that Ben Johnson, many people believed he was interested in the Bears job if it opened last year. Okay, you can't get Harbaugh, go get Ben Johnson. Matt Eberflus? You had to bring back Matt Eberflus. You had to bring this back. This. Hey, what am I missing here? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. He's atrocious, and I'm not trying to be mean, but it just is what it is. He's not a head coach in the NFL. I would bet, excuse me, I would bet a lot of money that Matt Eberflus will never be a head coach again at the NFL level. The only chance is if he's a DC somewhere and the head coach gets fired and he gets the interim tag because he's done the job before. That would be the only way. And by the way, we got a fifth column on this graphic now. 5-17 in one-score games. That is the worst record in one-score games since he has entered as a head coach in 2022. Oh, got to keep him. Can't get rid of him. Can't fire him mid-season. We're too noble of a franchise to do that. We could bury Shane Waldron 9 games into his coaching tenure with the Bears, but 2.5 years in, nope, can't fire Flus. He'll figure it out. He won't. He just will not. And that's a fair indictment on Ryan Poles, if we're being completely honest. How much of your money, that's just fun hypothetical here, like looking back, like how much would you have donated, not because the Bears need your money or whatever, but just like, hey, like if Bears fans came up with X amount of dollars, say $1 million, how much would you have been willing to chip into the pot to get Harbaugh? I think I would have written a check for $5,000. Like $5,000 for me is a pretty good amount of money, but I would have done it if that could have been my contribution to getting Jim Harbaugh in, because I'm so desperate for this team to have a real coach because they just have not in forever. I mean, Flus makes me miss Nagy, and Nagy by the end was so lost. I mean, it really was unbelievable, and he's significantly better than Flus. It's actually painful to see some of these scenarios play out. All right, legitimate Poles complaint number 3. His failure to build the offensive line. I get it. You can't build everything in a year or even 2 when you rip the roster down to the studs, but it should be better than the investments he's made. He drafted Darnell Wright, top 10, solid player. Good right tackle. Not great, but good. Like, I think he's a building block. I'm hoping he can still ascend. It's not necessarily his fault that Nate Davis got $30 million and decided he didn't want to play football anymore, but you still got to wear the misses. And he traded for Ryan Bates 2 years after he tried to sign him. And Ryan Bates has played in, 3 games? And he's left 2 of those games with an injury. I know it was only a 5th-round pick, but it's like this guy was never really a starter in Buffalo. He was like a part-time starter. And you bring him in, and he came to get on the field. It's like Lucas Patrick 2.0. Like the rest of the big OL offensive line investments, or not big, there are no other big ones, are just like Band-Aids. Lucas Patrick, Coleman Shelton. I mean, Braxton Jones, he deserves credit for that. Found him in the 5th round. Like, that's easily the best value one he's found. And that, let's be honest, it's probably a little luck on day 3 in the draft out of Southern Utah. It's just he has not put enough money into this offensive line. Again, I'm not saying this offensive line should be a top 5 unit by now, and I actually thought they played better yesterday, and they've had moments at times, but this is an average at best unit and probably still below average compared to the rest of the NFL. When you reset your quarterback here, you got to protect him. Now, some people are like they shouldn't have drafted Rome Odunze. I won't go that far. He's leading the team in receiving, but maybe trading for Keenan Allen was a mistake. Maybe they should have used that money on another piece. And again, I liked the Keenan trade at the time, but it's not my job to get it right. I'm not the GM. It's my job to give my honest analysis and reaction. I don't think it's the worst trade ever. 4th-round pick. He's been fine. I think he's probably helped Caleb out. But invest in the offensive line more, man. Protect the quarterback. And, by the way, and this might be more on Flus, I don't know, get a real offensive line coach. Chris Morgan, he sucks. All right, so I ask you again. Should Ryan Poles be on the hot seat? Type Y for yes. Type in for no. Let us know in the comment section down below. in conclusion, like I don't think he should be like on the hot seat. But if you told me right now at the end of the year they're going to fire Poles and Flus, like I don't think I'd lose sleep over it. Whereas 4 months ago I'd have been like, really, they got rid of Poles? I don't like that. I wouldn't love it, but I wouldn't hate it either. I would understand it. That's where I'm at. So hit that subscribe button. More videos to come here on Bears Now. God, I had a tickle in my throat there. Yeah. Okay. The Sky Warrior. Matt Eberflus would be a great defensive coordinator in Cincinnati. Please fire him so he can lead that defense to that Lombardi. Bengals fan, I guess. Yeah, and look, I've said it. I think we probably overrated Flus as a defensive coordinator, but clearly that's a job he can do. He's one of the 32 best at that. He is not one of the 32 best people on the planet to be a head coach. There's just no way. Defensive coordinator, yes. Head coach, no. Chris Ayers. Flus makes Nagy look like a genius. Got to the postseason. Got Trubisky into a Pro Bowl. He was an alternate. Let's not overvalue that Pro Bowl appearance. But I hear what you're saying. Coach of the year, and Nagy was horrible. Yeah, I mean, Nagy was not good, and he was significantly better than this head coach. I mean, significantly. Kotos, it's funny how us fans don't think, I can't wait to celebrate after this easy, clear win. Instead, we think, how will Flus fuck this up this time? This is awful. Shout out Jack for getting that on screen after saying he wouldn't. I don't care, but try not to cuss on Super Chats. Yeah. Ryan, the McCaskies would never pay for a seasoned coach. Great point by Kotos, by the way. I don't want to forget that. It's like you're driving down late and you're like, Caleb, oh my God, he's doing it. But how's Flus going to screw it up? And that's exactly what happened. Ryan, the McCaskies would never pay for a seasoned coach who could come in and change something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Appreciate the first time super. And yeah, it's a fair question, fair criticism. Until they do, it's hard to trust that they would. So that's where I give the Poles the caveat. Like, maybe he's not allowed to fire the guy, but maybe he's not allowed to chase Jim Harbaugh, but I don't know. I don't know. Ryan, George McCaskey is a pushover mama's boy. That's why. He's something. He is something. John T. Death, taxes, and Poles missed at free and C O-line. Unreal. Yeah, he's not done well with the offensive line. It's a completely fair criticism. Steven, I'm a Seahawks fan, and I know there is something wrong upstairs with the Bears when they hired Shane Waldron after we dumped him. Cooked Williams. Yeah, Caleb was instantly better the first game without Shane. So, and listen, hand up, I'll be guilty. And I didn't think Shane Waldron was the highest ceiling offensive coordinator option available, but I like that he had 3 years of experience and that his Seahawks offenses at least had an above average level of success. I was like, okay, with Caleb's talent, the receivers around him, I just need someone to be competent. Turns out, I don't know what happened here. I don't know if he, Seattle was overachieving with him, whatever. Turns out he just wasn't good. I mean, instantly Thomas Brown had this thing looking better. Now, we'll see how it goes the rest of the season. But, that was a miss on my part too. But I will say this, and this is where I'll defend my take. I'm not in those interviews. And the second we heard Shane Waldron's press conference and heard him just talk throughout the season, like, this is the guy that sold you? Like, he's not inspiring at all. And I think we overvalue pressers, but, like, you got to be a good communicator if you're a coordinator in this league. You got to be able to connect with players. We heard all these reports. He can't command the room. How did he fool you then when you hired him? That's concerning. That's concerning. Josh Pike, seems like the Bears asking the NFL to review the field goal. Yeah, team. So you guys may not know this. Teams send in plays all the time on calls they think that got wrong, like a face mask, a PI, leveraging. In that case, they're not protesting the loss, and even if they were, it would not happen. This is just like let's send it in and see what the NFL gives them back in terms of feedback. There's nothing that'll change the result. So, congrats. The Bears are having them review it. It's not going to change anything. If anything, it's going to make it worse if we find out that the NFL is like, yeah, we should have thrown that flag. It just makes it even more painful. Steven, did you see the JSN interview? Insane. Yeah, and look, I was hoping at the time, I was like, okay, this is a rookie receiver. Like, I could see this just being like he thought he was better, he was more ready than he was. Waldron leaned on veterans, whatever. But yeah, looking back on it, that was a major red flag. Major red flag. Mike G, when they had the Devin Hester recognition at halftime, they booed George, and I loved it. They should. Get a more competitive football team. You don't want to be booed? Put a better product on the field. Kodos, I watched the Bills game after the Bears. The players look like they actually like the team. Bears players look like they are being forced at gunpoint to play. I do think the Bears played hard yesterday. I think they got up for that Packers game. I appreciate the fight they showed. Now, that wasn't there against Arizona or New England, so it's been inconsistent week to week. But I hear you, man. You know what that is, though? That's a result of being on a winning team for a long time. Like the Bills, they got a lot of guys who have just won a lot of games, and the Bears don't. So eventually losing takes a toll. Winning, it never gets tired. Like you never get. That's why the old cliche in sports: winning cures everything. Like there can be chaos in the building. There can be guys that don't like each other, coaches and players. If you're winning, though, none of that stuff matters because that's all people talk about is how you're winning games. Hashtag Bears or Super Chat. We'll continue to answer your questions. We're going to get into our mailbag segment coming up here in just a moment. Hashtag Bears or Super Chat to get your questions answered here on the show. Appreciate all the donations we've gotten already. So we'll fire this thing away. Use hashtag Bears or Super Chat to get those questions in. Yep. I'm Harrison Graham. It is time for a Bears Now mailbag from FGB Forever. Is Thomas Brown a viable head coach candidate for this team if Caleb continues to progress under him? The tricky part with this situation is if the offense and Thomas Brown are awesome, like what's the scenario where you fire Flus and just promote Thomas Brown? I guess if the defense keeps collapsing, if Flus keeps making stupid decisions and you go like 7-10, but the offense is awesome, I guess. But even then, you've got to do a full coaching search. I don't think you just promote Thomas Brown. Here's what I think is a more at least plausible scenario. I don't think likely, but more likely than him becoming the head coach. Like, say the Bears hired Mike Vrabel, who's more of like a CEO coach. If he's impressed with Thomas Brown, maybe he hires him as the offensive coordinator, and then he gets someone else as the defensive coordinator. That feels more likely than Thomas Brown just taking over. Now, if you wanted to make him the interim head coach, I would do that immediately. Now, he's calling plays from the booth, so do you want to mess with that after one good game with Caleb? Like, if you fired Flus, I'd rather promote someone else so you don't mess with Brown's spot in the field, because if he's the interim head coach, he has to be on the sideline. Yeah, I'll say this. I'm more inspired from listening to Thomas Brown and seeing the emotion he coaches with in one game than I have been from Matt Eberflus in 2.5 years. What say you? Should Thomas Brown be considered as the Bears head coach? Type Y for yes, type in for no. I do think if the offense keeps playing well and they fire this coaching staff, he would be interviewed. I think he'd be in the interview pool, and I think he'd earn that. He's done head coach interviews before. He's well respected in this league. So, yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be at the top of my list to be the head coach, but I'd have no problem interviewing him. Wasim, Flus is still employed is an indictment on Ryan Poles. Yeah, it is. It is. Again, does Ryan Poles have full autonomy to fire him whenever he wants? I don't know. I think in the offseason he does, and if he doesn't, that's a whole different problem. Some people don't think he's allowed to midseason. That's up for debate. I don't think there's a clear answer on that, but he should not have brought him back for a third season. And I think the results speak for themselves, and the process speaks for itself in some of these decisions and how he's made them. Sir Cake 9, do you truly believe that we will fire Flus this offseason? Because I do not. Sadly, I think Ryan is too loyal to him, and that scares me for Caleb. If it continues to go down this path and they bring back Eberflus, I mean, that's actually one of the most mind-boggling things to even just think about. So I just can't think that would happen if they keep losing here, especially if the coaching continues to make major mistakes. But yeah, you hope what happened last year doesn't happen. Like they have 7 games left. Like the worst case scenario is going like 4-3, 5-2, get to 7 or 8 wins and being like, they finished strong again. Let's run it back. Year 2 at Caleb, they'll hit the ground running. It's like, let's not be fooled by the same guy twice. Tony Stanton, did Green Bay blitz much yesterday? I didn't notice much blitzing, and our O-line handled that well. I'd have to go back and watch the tape, but I do know on the last pass attempt from Caleb, he identified a blitz, set a 7-man protection. They ended up bringing 7, and he got rid of the ball quickly and hit Keenan Allen on the 12-yard out route to set him up in field goal range. Again, I felt like Caleb was rolling there. He got confidence. I would have let him continue to throw at least one more time. Instead, they ran it and ran the clock down and had the field goal blocked. We know the end of the story. But in that situation, he identified the blitz, handled it well, and as a whole, I thought the offensive line was pretty good against Green Bay, so that's encouraging. Maybe they play well moving forward here. Today's show is sponsored by Rocket Money. Cancel any unnecessary subscriptions you may have with Rocket Money right now. This app will monitor your spending and help lower your bills so you can grow your savings as well. And most Americans believe that they're spending about $62 per month on subscriptions. The reality is that number is closer to $300. That is literally thousands of dollars per year, half of those of which they're subscriptions you've probably forgotten about or you just don't use that frequently anymore. What the Rocket Money app will do is it'll list out all of the subscriptions on your screen once you sync up your bank account at rocketmoney.com/bearsnow. Create your account, and you'll see that all in front of you on one screen. Very interactive app. And you're like, oh, I don't want this streaming service anymore. I don't want this subscription anymore. And all of a sudden, boom, you might be saving $100, $150 per month if you use Rocket Money properly. So I know from personal experience, I've canceled multiple subscriptions with the Rocket Money app, a couple that I forgot about, a couple that I realized I'm just spending too much. I want to scale back. I'm not using this app that frequently anymore. I can always re-download it, re-sign up in the future. And what you do is you click cancel, and with the instructions of a couple of clicks from Rocket Money, you can get that subscription canceled in just a few moments. So go to rocketmoney.com/bears now. Download the app today, create an account, and just stay on top of your finances. If you use Rocket Money to its full potential, you can save up to $740 per year with the app's full features. So one more time, rocketmoney.com/bears now. DC Viper, have to show Caleb some love. Dude did everything to win that game in the fourth, but Flu screwed him again. Yeah, I mean, you can't really say more. And I've had people DM me, he didn't even throw a touchdown. It's like, dude, like if you get on the goal line, it's not his fault. Like they're going to hand the ball off. Like they were moving the ball frequently throughout that game. At the end of the game, he takes over, puts you in position to win. Head coach takes the ball out of his hands and settles for a longer field goal, and it gets blocked. I mean, what do you want the guy to do, man? I thought for chunks of that game, he outplayed Jordan Love. I know Love had like 30 more yards or whatever. They generated more explosives, but I thought he was pretty good. I thought he was more than good enough to win that game. He put you in position, and the head coach / the field goal unit let you down, and that's unfortunate. Justin Kirk, will Cunningham be our next GM? I like Ian Cunningham. I think he's a GM-worthy candidate in this league. I do not see a scenario where they fire Ryan Poles and promote Ian Cunningham. They are tight. They are really close. I just don't think Cunningham would even do it, if I'm being honest. Okay. Chris Ayers. Flus makes Nagy look like a genius. Got to the postseason. Trubisky to a Pro Bowl alternate, but I hear you. Coach of the year, and Nagy was horrible. Yeah, I think we do. Like, the last year and a half, he was really bad, but he had good moments, and if you just compare resumes, forget like what we watched and what we witnessed, it's not even close who the better coach was. I mean, Nagy went 34-31, made the playoffs twice. Matt Eberflus is 14-30. I don't care what the circumstances are. That is not even comparable. I mean, you're talking about a guy who flamed out at the end and clearly needed to be fired versus a guy who very early on, even in that first year when the roster sucked, showed signs of this guy may be in over his head. Subscribe to Bears Now. We got videos all year long. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and we will continue bring you content. We go live every Monday and Thursday at 4 o'clock Central. That's when we answer your questions like this mailbag video. So if you want to get in on that, join us on Mondays and Thursdays. Eddie Jackson, Eberflus sent the last kick to the league office complaining that there was a penalty. What a joke. Always a scapegoat with him. Yeah, I mean, look, every single team since plays to the league throughout the season on calls they didn't deem were fair. It is kind of just a soft look to like. I don't think he's like saying that's why we lost, but like he is kind of making it a point to put that out there. It's like, look, man, don't put yourself in that position. Just take matters into your own hands. Don't punt the drive before when it's 4th and 2, 4th and 3 in plus territory. Go take the game. And he played not to lose. And when you play not to lose, you typically lose. Andy Larkin, Barry's brother, do you think Johnson is more likely to stay in Detroit or leave if he wins the Super Bowl? If he leaves the Super Bowl and doesn't take a head coaching job, I maybe you just don't want to be a head coach. Like if Detroit wins the Super Bowl and he stays there, I wouldn't really get it. He said he had unfinished business there. To me, that's getting to a Super Bowl and potentially winning it. So if they at least get to a Super Bowl and he doesn't take a head coaching job, I don't know. I think he'll be selective. I don't think he'll just take any job. Like I don't think he'd take the Jets job, but I think there will be a couple of openings that are worth exploring. And even amidst the Bears' chaos, I actually think if he's a Caleb believer, I still think this job can be a good one. Rich M, do you think we'll have a top 10 pick in the draft next year? Also, mock draft season incoming. Yeah, we'll probably crank out a mock soon. We did one during the bye week, and they haven't won since. So that probably means we're due for another one. Right now, they're 14th in the draft order standings. There's a lot of really bad teams. Like the Bears are a mess, but there's 9 teams that have won 2 or 3 games. So there's a lot of traffic to get from 14 to even inside the top 10. Yeah, I mean, if the second half, we know the rest of the schedule's tough. So they lose 6 out of 7, go 5 and 12. I mean, they're going to be picking in the top 10 more than likely. Who you got this week? Do the Bears snap a 4-game losing streak? If you think so, type CHI for the Bears. If not, take MIN for the Vikings. Be a good test for Caleb in the offense. Brian Flores in that defense is tough. Dylan Peterson, what else do you think the front office needs to see to fire Matt midseason? I mean, what else do you have to see? Like, what else? If there's not enough evidence now, when is there going to be? Which is why I think, and look, I'm still going to keep calling for it, but to expect them to fire him midseason, I think, is extremely unlikely. I think the only window where it happens, they lose this week, quick turnaround, Detroit on the road on Thanksgiving. If they lose that one as well, that would be 7 straight losses, 0-3 to start divisional play. You would be 4-9 on the season, and you'd have 10 days before the next game. Like, that could be a window where, hey, let's just do it now. But that's really the only chance left I see just on the schedule alone. Much not even thinking about, like, oh, do the McCaskies, are they even willing to do it? So, yeah, I don't think it happens, but if it does, I think that would be when it does. Mike Nintendo Master, who is your top GM replacement if Poles gets fired? I don't even know, man. Like, I haven't put a lot of thought into GM candidates, but I may have to, so stay tuned. Subscribe. Cranes make gains. Final record prediction, I don't think we win another game. I do think they'll win somewhere between 1 and 3 more games. 2 feels likely. I think 6 and 11 is where this thing is heading. It's a tough schedule, but look, as much of a train wreck Flus is, if Caleb and the offense play like they did Sunday, they're going to win a game or 2. Like, they could win this week against the Vikings. They really could. Sam Darnold has not played as well the last few weeks. The Vikings have struggled to run the football, so if they can contain Aaron Jones, like, Darnold, kind of like Jordan Love, will give you some chances to pick him off. They could win this week. Would I pick it? No, but they could. They play Seattle. San Francisco on the road doesn't feel impossible anymore. They've been kind of a mess. So I'll say they win 2 more games. I hope they're just competitive every week and Caleb plays well and he develops, because at this point, that's really all that matters. All right, give me a follow on social media, both Twitter and Instagram, at HGramNFL. And if you have any more Bears, football, life questions, whatever, hit me up over there. DMs are wide open. Got to catch up on DMs after the Packers game. It's going to be a bloodbath, but I will do that soon. And if you have more questions, fire away. John T. I get Swift popped that one, but he is not an every down back. Well, I think that's what we saw with Thomas Brown, too. Roschon Johnson got 10 carries. Swift got 14. I'm cool with the 15-10 split. I still like Swift. I get you're going to have to live with him missing proper lanes at times, but we've seen on multiple occasions he can hit the home run. He sparked the offense in Washington with that 56-yarder. He had the awesome run yesterday. Like, Roschon's not doing that. He's not taking 40 yards. He's not taking little toss plays for 40 yards. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you give him the ball 25 times, but I still want him to get 15 and sometimes up to 20 carries in a game. But, yeah, I think Roschon deserves more touches, and I think you'll probably see him get some more touches moving forward. That was something that Thomas Brown clearly made a point to do. Let me just look back, make sure I had those numbers right. Swift, 14 for 71. Roschon, 10 for 33. So, Roschon's not going to get you a lot of, big 20-plus yards, but he'll grind out some tough yards, and we saw that down the stretch yesterday. Jeffrey with the first-time super, he says, what do you think about Robert Saleh, head coach DC hire? Not as a head coach. I think he's better than Eberflus, but not as a head coach. I'd be cool as a DC. Now, he's a 3-4 guy, so you'd be switching your scheme, but at this point, who really cares? I think you've got some good defensive players. They can make it work. If you hired I wouldn't mind him either as a DC because, excuse me, because, unless you hire Mike Vrabel, chances are you're going to hire a head coach who's never been a head coach before. So having a guy on staff who's done that job before, I think is valuable. So, say you do get Ben Johnson, make solid the DC. I certainly wouldn't mind that dynamic. Emiliano, the Bears never fired a coach midseason, and they don't hire the big-name coaches. That's ownership, not polls. Hands are tied. P.S. Macaroni smells good. Okay. I do like macaroni. Yeah, I mean, again, I added those caveats. I don't know how much power Poles has in terms of when he can fire coaches. I will say, this fake Noble thing, if this is truly just a team policy, if we don't fire a head coach midseason, like what? Firing Shane Waldron 9 games on the job, which needed to be done, by the way. I would have fired Flus and Waldron, but that's okay, but firing the head coach isn't. Like, what's the difference? What is the difference? You're still ending you're still making someone unemployed. Now Waldron's going to get paid and all that stuff, but yeah, like, we got to stop this 1947 doing everything by the book. Like, dude, you're setting your franchise back by acting like this. Fire Eberflus and start working on the list of coaches you want to interview. Period. It's very simple. It's very, very simple. All right. Who you got? Bears or Vikings? Who you got? David, yeah, I kind of agree with you too. Like, even if Poles' hands are somewhat tied, he's clearly a fan of Eberflus. Now, is that starting to slip this season? He hasn't talked publicly a ton this year. I don't know. But I think he wanted Eberflus back this year. I really do. And I think that was a bad call. I think that was a very, very bad call. All right, coming up, it's not all bad news. Chris Ayers, we'll get to your super chat after this segment. Caleb Williams he's showing a little something even through the ups and downs of this season. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, but he's showing one trait that should get us all very excited. We'll talk about it next. Coming up here on Chicago Bears Now, Caleb Williams. Yes, he's had his ups and downs, but he is showing a big franchise quarterback trait that you really, really need to have. We'll talk about that trait next here on Bears Now. But before we do it, show QB1 some love. We're filming this live on Monday, so happy birthday to Caleb Williams, 23 years old today. Get the 1-8 in the comment section down below, and let's talk about the quarterback next. I'm Harrison Graham. Caleb is clutch. You can say what you want to say. You can compare his raw stats to the other rookie quarterbacks, yada, yada, yada. We can do all that stuff. One thing that the data shows is in the biggest moments of the games, in the close games, when it matters most, he has clutched up, and he has more than done his job in those situations. Unfortunately, his head coach and at times team around him have not done their job. Don't believe me? Let's just dive into some of the data. First, his fourth quarter stats. When do you want your quarterback playing the best? In the fourth quarter. Well, his stats by quarter are as follows. First quarter, fine. Second quarter, third quarter, not nearly as good. Fourth quarter, it's up across the board. Completion percentage, I guess he's got more yards in the second quarter, but most touchdown passes along with the second quarter. Just the one interception, which I think was against the Colts. Can't remember now, but he's been money in the fourth quarter. He really, really has. The stats in the eye test don't lie. They just don't. Like, trust your eyes and then look at the data and see if it meshes together. In the fourth quarter, especially in high leverage situations, which we'll talk about the Washington and Packers game a little bit later, he's played his best ball. Now, some of that is he hasn't played great in some of the other quarters, especially in the second and third. He's been up and down this year. He had a really bad 3-game stretch, although in the first of those 3 games, he had an awesome fourth quarter in Washington. I'm acknowledging he's been up and down. He apologized to the team for not playing well enough after Shane Waldron got fired. I think that says a lot about his character. But he has been clutch in 2 high-leverage games and in 2 high-pressure situations, and it's unfortunate that the Bears have let him down in those situations. Help us out. We're trying to get to 109,000 subscribers here on the channel. We're less than 400 subs away here on Bears Now. So lock us in. That math isn't right, but it's all good. Producer Jack changed one of the numbers, forgot to change the other one. And listen, we're talking football. It is what it is. Hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 109,000. All right, fourth quarter stats, fourth down stats. This kind of shocked me because I was like, really? The Bears have gone for fourth down this many times? I guess the answer is yes. On fourth down this year, Caleb Williams is 15 of 18, 158 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, that is pretty damn clutch on fourth down. That is pretty damn money on fourth down. I mean, 15 of 18 regardless of down is like, this guy is in the zone. Fourth down, he's missed 3 out of 18 throws. I mean, we saw it on Saturday or on Sunday, right? I mean, the back shoulder fade to Rome. He hit Roschon while getting hit on another one for a first down. He converted multiple with his arm. So he's been money on fourth down. And, again, when you're going through this process, you've got a rookie quarterback. There's ups and downs. You look for things that tangible and intangible things that you can build upon. I would say finishing games strong when the game's on the line, playing well, making big plays in those moments, that carries a lot of weight for me personally, and I know for these teams. What did Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus talk a lot about? Not that I care what Flus has to say. And what was a big talking point around Justin Fields? He shrinks in the fourth quarter as a passer. I'm not trying to rip the guy, but the data shows the fourth quarter, especially in close games, was easily his worst quarter. And this was over 3 years of data. Early on, small sample size, Caleb in the fourth quarter has played really, really, really well. And that has me excited for the future. So he's been good in the fourth quarter. He's been good on fourth down. What's the next statistic I want to dive into? The next thing I want to dive into? We'll do that next. But first, I do want to tell you about our friends, our sponsor over at Prize Picks. Get started today. Create an account. Get in on the action. Maybe you're like me and you drafted Christian McCaffrey in your season-long fantasy draft, and he's been hurt most of the year. And honestly, since he's come back, he hasn't been that good. Well, that's where Prize Picks comes in. Daily fantasy, all sports available. You can change lineups every day. You're not stuck with players who are injured or who are just having bad seasons. You can pick new players all the time. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS when you sign up and create an account, because if you do that, when you play for just $5, only $5, doesn't matter if you win or lose your first entry, you're going to get a $50 deposit bonus straight into your account. It's an awesome deal. Extra money to play with. I got a little two-player entry from last week that I won. I'm looking to win again this week. Going to fire multiple entries because now I got some extra money, not only with the code CLNS, but since I hit this one, I had DJ Moore on his receiving yards. I felt like Jordan Love would throw a pick, and he did. 5 to win just less than 15 on that one because that was a goblin pick for the Love interception with that little green goblin there. If you see a red demon, those are a little tougher to hit, but more bang for your buck. Check out Prize Picks today. Lots of different action you can get in on at prizepicks.com/CLNS. When you use the code CLNS, again, you get a $50 bonus into your account once you play for $5 initially. Go check it out. All right, lastly, his play when trailing late, how he's played. He has shown the clutch gene. I know these all kind of tie together, fourth quarter, etc., but let's just show 3 specific drives in particular. Example number 1, second to last drive against Washington. And this is in a game where Caleb struggled and, quite frankly, played like shit for 3 quarters. But he turned it on in the fourth quarter. 9-play drive, 84 yards. Caleb on that drive, 4 for 4, 50 yards. And then what happens? Shane Waldron hands the ball off to Doug Kramer, and he fumbles. I shouldn't say Shane handed off. He called a play to Doug Kramer in which he fumbled on the goal line. Should have been 7 points on the board. Instead of not even getting 3, you get 0. And that was with about 5 minutes left. In a game where points are at a premium and driving down multiple times is going to be tough. Well, what does he do? He comes back after the Bears defense gets a stop, does it again. 10 plays, 62 yards, including a 4th down conversion. Caleb 2 for 4, 38 yards, 5 rushing yards, Roschon Johnson touchdown. Oh, shocker, you hand it to Roschon. Better things happen on the goal line than Doug Kramer in that high leverage of a situation. So he drove him down not once but twice, back against the wall, took the lead with less than 30 seconds in that one. What happens? Well, your coach screws up down the stretch. You give up the Hail Mary. Late game example number 3, just this Sunday against the Packers. 7 plays, 42 yards. And this was after the first 2 plays on this drive go for -9, 2 sacks. One his fault for -1. Second one, Braxton Jones got destroyed. He didn't really have a chance. Caleb goes 3 for 3 on that drive, 49 yards, all tough throws. The 3rd and 19, he evades pressure, ducks out of a sack, throws on the run to Rome for 16. Back shoulder fade, very difficult throw, rookie to Rome for 21. And then he hits Keenan Allen on a 12-yard out route, facing a 7-man blitz, which he checked into a max protection so that could be picked up. Gets him into field goal range. We all know what happens. Matt Eberflus took the ball out of his hands, and Cairo Santos missed the field goal. And this just getting back to the Flus discussion. I hate to always bring it back to Flus, but the guy just wears me out. Get Up, ESPN threw this up as a graphic on their show on Monday. Cairo Santos, since joining the Bears, inside 40 yards, is I think he's actually 71-71, so I think they're 1 field goal off there. But 100% from 45+, he's 76%. So still a good percentage. But Matt, who pointed to a fumble that could happen in that spot, you only fumble on 0.46% of plays this year. So less than half a percentage chance outweighed 24% there. Now, I don't even think he acknowledged that data. I don't think he was even thinking inside 40, Cairo's never missed. I think he was probably thinking, well, 46 is in Cairo's range. Let's not risk anything. He later said during his Monday press conference, well, you could have a penalty there. You could take a sack. You could, all kinds of things could happen. In other words, you're expecting your team to make a mistake. You don't trust your players. That's what that told me. And so what pisses me off is that not only has Matt Eberflus cost your team to be in playoff contention just in those 2 games, not even talking about the Colts game, not even talking about just laying a complete egg against New England, just the game at Washington where the handoff to Kramer and the mismanaging of the final 2 plays led to the Hail Mary, and the game against Green Bay where he doesn't go for the 4th down and he doesn't keep the ball in Caleb's hands for some extra yards. Just those 2 games cost Caleb Williams 2 signature fourth quarter victories and a 6-4 record where you're firmly in the playoff hunt. You are firmly in the playoff hunt. You have the same record as Green Bay if you do those things. You actually have a better record than Washington. They'd be 6-5. You'd be the 6th seed right now if your coach just wasn't moronic in big spots. Forget the other losses. Just those two insane games to lose because of your head coach. So in conclusion, Caleb's had his ups and downs. I'm not acting like he's been awesome. I'm not acting like he's going to Canton. But I think he's wired the right way. I think he's got the clutch gene already. He's shown. Doesn't mean he's going to do well every time in those situations, but he's shown he can do that. He can handle that, and he's growing. Yeah, there was a little 3-week setback. You get rid of Shane Waldron, all of a sudden it looks competent again. I don't know. We'll see how it goes the rest of the year, but I'm not worried about his mental toughness. I'm not worried about his talent and his ability. I'm worried about the coach and this guy being here. Like, Matt Eberflus has to go. So feel good about where Caleb's at. Certainly wish things had been smoother up to this point, but I think all in all, I still feel confident about him being the franchise quarterback. Do you agree with me? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Do you think the Bears finally have a franchise quarterback? I do think the answer is yes, but they got to get the right coach. All right, there you have it. Caleb Williams showing the clutch gene early on in his career. Unfortunately, failures around him have cost him 2 of those signature moments. We'll continue to cover this team on a daily basis, so subscribe to Bears Now. Seeing all yeses except for from Lynn, a maybe from somebody. I feel pretty confident, man. I mean, imagine what we'd be saying had they beat Green Bay, which they should have. He did his job to do that in the fourth quarter with those 3 throws, and Flus sat on the ball. Frustrating. Chris Ayers, can we sue the team for pain and suffering, cruel and unusual punishment? Yeah, feels like we should be able to, doesn't it? Feels like we should be able to, but all we can do is hope it gets better. Hope they get the right coach. Michael, is there a world or nightmare where Matt Eberflus is back? I guess until he's fired, there's a way, but I think the only way he's back is if they have a major turnaround and make the playoffs. And even then, I personally would not bring him back. He's got to win a playoff game for me to even consider bringing him back. I've just seen too much bad to turn like that. So I think it's less than 5% chance. Chris Ayers, again, my Pop Warner team is 5-2. I'd like to submit my resume to be the next head coach of the Chicago Bears. Apply at firemateberflus.com. We're taking applications over there. That's sarcasm if you couldn't tell. Jason Clegg, if the Bears' offense remains consistent, I totally see a scenario where the Bears save money and hire the OC as head coach. Sadly, you could be right. At least Thomas Brown would be better than Matt Eberflus. And look, I'm not even against Thomas Brown. Like, if he shows with Caleb that this offense can do great things, interview him, have him in the mix. Certainly, if the new head coach wants to keep him as the OC, I'd be all for that. But let's see how it goes. It's been one game. Let's see how the next 7 go. John T. R.I.P. Nate Davis buried out back at Hallis Hall. That's not true for those who don't understand sarcasm, but yeah, he's no longer with the team. That's for sure. All right. Does Williams have a concussion? Why would we think that? I have not seen anything about that. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Shout out to Jack Lauderay, back in the production chair, producing this thing. Cullen should be back for Thursday's live show, so you guys will see him then. My name is Harrison Graham. Videos throughout the week. Bear down, and we'll see you soon.